the empathizer is inescapably in a position of power and superiority to the empathizee.
Bill, compassion, as you explain in your splendid new book, goes with equality and fellow feeling. Sympathy, compassion means feeling with another human being, sort of putting yourself in their shoes to the extent you really can. But at the same time, as you astutely point out, compassion and especially pity means or implies a certain kind of superiority, because you don't actually feel the pain that someone else is feeling. You sympathize with that pain. You imagine what it would be like to feel that pain. You're in a sense pain-free. You're in a position, at least let's say, to do something about the person who is suffering. You're in a position, you imagine at least, or you hope, to end that suffering. And that's a position of superiority, not equality, and not exactly, fellow feeling. Is liberal compassion more about superiority than it is about fellow feeling?
It's tricky. There's an undeniable element of noblesse oblige there, of this sort of Lady Bountiful social work kind of attending to the suffering of those who do not or cannot help themselves. And I think that it's further complicated because suffering, there's a certain narrow sense in which you might say that equality is promoted by compassion. That would be, and I think liberal rhetoric emphasizes this a great deal, to get people to understand a certain equality of susceptibility. So,
what does that mean?
Well, to garner support for the liberal agenda by saying to people who are not poor, are not sick, are not homeless, you're much closer to this than you realize. For example,
this could be you.
Yes.
But for the grace of God.
Yes, yeah. That's right. This is, that's sort of the entire thesis of the excruciatingly long book, John Rawls' The Theory of Justice, in one sentence. There but for fortune go I. And so people are asked to imagine themselves and to reckon with the possibility that they could be the poorest person in society, the least advantaged, as Rawls said. And there's also, I think, there's one case at least in which compassion sort of does work among equals. In a situation like a support group, people, the idea is that people will open up and speak effectively to one another, because I've been there. You're trying to stop drinking. I was a drug too, and so I understand what you're going through. And this is supposed to be effective in a way that having somebody who's never had a drinking problem lecturing about these things is not, And I think this gets back to the notion of I feel your pain. Politicians and just citizens one to another trying to, even if they can't quite imagine it, trying to, as best they can, say that they identify with and empathize with. But there is a irreducible verticality to the situation that empathizer is inescapably in a position of power and superiority to the empathizee. And it's
I like these terms of yours. No, they do clarify something. And so you have sort of empathizer bunnies who are just tireless in their empathizing.
yes, until
And indiscriminate to some extent too, I guess.
yes, but even the empathizer bunny's battery eventually runs down, and they submit to compassion fatigue, another term that has entered into the language and describes what is a problem inherent in the enterprise, asking people to be better than they are, better than they can be, better than they should be for their own health and the nation's is not a wise course.